Hello everyone, how are you? My name is Daniel, and today I will show you a way to transform Google X using GPT. Imagine having a system that dynamically answers your questions with data that you input into your X. Well, first we will set up the integration of GPT with Google Sheets. Then we will create a custom search using the data you have in Google Sheets so that GPT can understand and answer specific questions about your content. In the first part, you should create a new Google Sheets document. Then, get the OpenAI API Key and place it in this Google Sheets. If you have no experience with how to get an API, it's quite simple. You can go to the OpenAI documentation and see how to obtain this API key. This will allow us to connect GPT to Google Sheets in a secure and personalized way for your project. Well, what can we see here inside our Google Sheets? An interesting tip is that we can go to extensions, get add-ons, and search for GPT. This way, we will be able to see several tools that already use GPT and that can help with your performance using Google Sheets. But Daniel, why not use these functions and create a function from scratch? Well, by creating a function from scratch, we will be able to avoid possible extra costs and have more freedom in the function we are going to create. In my experience, using these functions that are already created by others, they usually have some extra costs after a part of using them for free. Now let's get to the point. Let's create our function for a smoother connection. In Sheets, click on Extensions, then on Apps Scripts. In this part, we will be able to create our custom function in JavaScript to call GPT, setting up a direct connection with the API to respond directly in Sheets. Well, I have already prepared a prompt in GPT to generate the function for us. Let me just get the prompt here. Well, it's quite simple. I gave an example of how a call to the OpenAI API looks, and then I asked it to give me a function in JavaScript. As you can see, it has already returned it for us. Let's paste it here, and now we already have the main function set up to call GPT. Now we are going to create two more functions. These other two functions are quite simple, so don't worry. I will leave them here in the comments, ready for you to use, okay? The first function is the getEmbedding function. What is an embedding? An embedding is the vector that represents a text in numerical form. This way, we will be able to use this later to calculate the similarity of our question with the content, and thus we will be able to perform our personalized search in the content. The third function we will use is the function specifically for you to perform the context search. It will do the following. It will take the two vectors we have, one that represents the question and the other that represents the content, and thus calculate how close the question is to the content. And it's quite simple. It will receive the two vectors, and it will also have a threshold. This threshold will be used for us to set what the limit of similarity we want to appear is. Okay, all right. Let's go to the part that matters. We will now use the functions we created in App Scripts to generate our custom search here in Sheets. The first part we will do is to get the embeds of the content we want to search. I have already prepared some content related to human resources. I know that many companies have questions, various questions related to human resources that people usually ask. So let's do the following. Let's automate this question process where you won't need to spend on time answering basic questions. For example, wow, I have a meeting. I can't attend the meeting. What should I do? In the first part, we will use our function to get the embedding. It simply receives the content and the key before copying this function to the other columns, to the other rows. Let's put a $sign here just to block it here. All right, now we have all the embeds related to the content. What are we going to do now? In this section, we will be thoroughly discussing and carefully analyzing the preparation of the questions. In cell A1, we can put the question there. As an example, I will put here a very simple question, which is, I have an appointment and I will have to miss the meeting. What should I do? Now we need to get the embed for this question using that same function we already created. Since we already have this function, I will copy it here, paste it there, and just change it. Oh great, I don't even need to change it. It's already A2. And now that I have the embedding, what are we going to do now, Daniel? Well, we are going to create a prompt for our agent. I will put here the prompt for our agent. For example, you can state that he will be a human resources specialist. This way we can align the GPT's response with what we want, okay? Below I will leave space for us to put the final response. Well, now we can go back to the specific part of our extensive database to thoroughly search for the content that best fits the particular question we are going to ask. Here, in C, we will perform this similarity calculation, which will be the vector of the question with the vector of the content we already have. We will use our similarity calculation function. The function is designed to take in two distinct vectors as input parameters. These vectors are known as the content vector, which contains the main data or information, and the question vector, which includes the query or question data. This process, since the question is the same, we will use the $sign here to keep it locked. We will add a threshold so that we only have the content that is really closest. I will add a threshold of 0.75. Here, if you want to make it higher or lower, that's fine. As you can see, we already have calculation here that makes it clearer for us which contents are closer to what we want. Now, here in column D, we will use a function that filters the closest contents. This function will take and concatenate the contents that are closest to our question. Alright, now we will build the final prompt, which will be a combination of our prompt that we placed on the home page, the contents, and the user's question. You can rest assured that I will have all of this ready for you to use, alright? Here, as you can see, we access our agent's prompt. Add a small instruction for GPT not to get lost and to use only that content to respond to our client, and then we concatenate it with our user's question. Thus, we have the entire prompt here. Done. Now everything is just right. It was just a matter of column. What are we going to do now? We are going to finalize with the final response for GPT. Using our GPT function here, we can pass it to the system in a manner that is quite similar to the way GPT receives the initial prompt content, along with the essential and necessary API key. By following this approach, we will ultimately and finally be able to generate the desired and expected response within our content. In this way, we can, for example, test with other questions. I can test here by asking, perhaps, for example, a bit more detailed question related to how do I access my team's files? Okay, now we have everything ready. You can now connect Google Sheets with Slack, for example, so that people can ask questions on Slack, and you can respond to those questions in a more dynamic way. And then you can, for example, highlight the details of conversations for easier access. And the entire system is ready, integrated with Google Sheets and GPT and the Similarity search. Well, use this system to automate responses and organize information, and even integrate with Slack for quicker rehearsals for your team. Remember, AI is a tool. The possibilities are endless. If you have any questions, leave them here in the comments, and I am here to answer any questions. Okay, it was a pleasure to help you with this step by step. If you liked the tutorial, leave your like, comment, anything that can improve, and subscribe so you don't miss more content. Thank you for watching and see you next time.